the beginning of the end for the MCU.
On today's
Nerd North!
Welcome back, Nerd North, and today Papa North has a crazy theory on how Thor Love and Thunder will begin the reboot of the entire MCU. That's right, all good things gotta come to an end, and at a certain point, we will have to wind up rebooting the MCU altogether, and I think that time is sooner than we all think.
Some would call that a great reset.
And I think with a little help from the Thor Corp, the Black Winter run, and the Infinity Conflict saga starring Thanos, you and Papa North can get to this place together.
That's right, I said Thanos, but more on that later.
So now let's start off with one of the most important facts that Kevin Feige said all the way back at the original Avengers movie was that Thor was the key to everything and the guy that's going to make all the things happen in the Avengers series.
That's a lot of weight to carry.
And what we also know is that Thor's overall story arc has always been one of redemption and what it means to be worthy.
The same lessons the Maple Leafs have been trying to learn for the better part of 60 years.
But what do we know about Thor Love and Thunder so far? 1.
Gorr the God Butcher shows up to New Asgard and causes all sorts of crazy
2.
We'll see the introduction of Jane Foster's Lady Thor. I would, and I'm still trying.
3.
At some point, Thor's gonna join up with the Guardians of the Galaxy and go on a bit of an adventure as the Ravagers.
Natalie Portman's Lady Thor comes about when Jane Foster winds up with cancer she got from the red ether, and the only way to keep her alive is for her to inherit the powers of the Thunder God and become Lady Thor. And with more female-centric leadership roles in the MCU like King Valkyrie, Captain Marvel, and Lady Thor, I do not think this is going to be a one-time appearance for her, rather a longer-term contract over multiple movies. We also know Gorr the God Butcher will be showing up with a bone to pick after most of his people on his planet are killed by the Elder Gods, and he is now hellbent on a mission to make sure there are no more gods ever again.
Just like your local school board.
And we also know from the trailer with Thor donning a Ravager's jacket that he will be joining up with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while to take a trip off planet to further find himself.
But what does this all mean? Well, Papa North is about to tell ya.
Well, I think it would make no sense to have Lady Thor show up as a new franchise character just to be saved by a more powered up version of Hemsworth Thor at the end of this film. And perhaps when Thor becomes one of the Ravagers, it's at the end of the movie, not at the beginning or the middle. This makes sense to leave room for Natalie Portman's Jane Foster Thor to grow in the further MCU. And finally, I think that Gorr the God Butcher will actually survive this movie by the hair on his chinny chin chin, just to show up again in Thor 5 and possibly team up with Hela.
That's right, because she's already been teased out in the multiverse of madness. And I would. So let's talk Thor 5.
Alright, let's talk Thor 5 and how I think Thor 5 will make the introduction of the Thor Corps.
But I thought they showed up in Secret Wars!
Well, you're right, but we also know that the MCU never does anything foreboding and rather cherry picks things out of individual stories to fit their overarching story for the MCU. And with the MCU going god crazy, I think we will see in Thor 5 both Gorr the God Butcher and a resurrected Hela team up to resurrect and or summon Mangog to come and destroy Olympus or a newly formed Asgard.
Mangog is collective hatred of a now deceased planet.
And if you think that sounds heavy, even Odin's afraid of him. Now with a threat like this, I think it's a little more than Jane Foster's Lady Thor can handle by herself. And with original Thor, now with the Ravagers, I think on his journey somewhere along the way, he is going to meet up with Beta Ray Bill, if not even in Thor Love and Thunder. And I think because of this threat, original Thor will be summoned back to help Lady Thor out with Beta Ray Bill and possibly others that have one point lifted Mjolnir in whatever multiverse they come from to help defeat Mangog. And I think by the point that this transpires in the film that Thor will have inherited the powers of the Odin Force.
Hold on!
go on to continue a solo cosmic journey by himself while leaving the Thor Corps to still take care of other problems around the universe and show up in Secret Wars.
I do hope this means we can get some Thor Corps versus some Loki Legion.
And I also think whatever spell that Hela and Gore the God Butcher used to awaken Mangog, just like Doctor Strange in No Way Home, that spell will have unintended consequences, waking up the Black Winter.
I'd also settle on an Alex Winters.
That's right, in the reboot of Thor in issue number 1, there is a storyline about the Black Winter where Thor becomes the Herald of Galactus and not the Silver Surfer. Now, the Black Winter is a force more powerful than Galactus, hell-bent on destroying the universe, and he needs someone as powerful as Thor to help him find planets with powers to consume so that together they can overcome and defeat the Black Winter.
The enemy of my enemy is my enemy.
And by the end of this series, Thor has realized the error of his way, and although trying to stop a bigger evil, is able to become Cosmic Thor and defeat both Galactus and the Black Winter.
Then how does Silver Surfer show up?
It's okay, Nerd North. This video covers that too. Now, as a quick sidebar, I think most people think that Secret Wars is going to be the thing that reboots the MCU, and while I agree with them that this is the direction that we are going, that this will only be the halfway point of the reboot, and what's more important is the introduction of Molecule Man, aka the Beyonder.
And what's so important about the Beyonder?
Sure, he blows up everything and resets everything in Marvel Comics, but I don't think this is where we're going with it. I think what's important about the Beyonder is he's the one that sets up the one above all, Marvel's God character. And in another sidebar, we also know that a young Thanos was supposed to show up in the Eternals, and there has been more than one rumor about multiversal Thanos showing up in Secret Wars and other places in the MCU going forward.
Which is how we get Thanos' Infinity conflict, and I think Thor's gonna be a huge part of that.
Now, what's Infinity Conflict all about? It's a story where a multiversal Thanos will go to the past to find another version of Thanos to tell him to take an item called the Astral Regulator, which was created by the one above all to pretty much regulate all the different multiverses, and with it eventually absorb all the cosmic entities until he's more powerful than the one above all and end everything in Marvel's MCU. Furthermore, are made to be such powerful devices that anybody without godlike power will instantly perish with even trying to touch one of these. However, in this story run, the multiversal Thanos from the future explains that he has died so many times that he is now beyond death.
So the Astral Regulators can't destroy him.
And that seems to be the problem, that Thanos has died and come back so many times, he just wants finality and just wants death for everything, including himself.
Oy, sounds like a death wish to me.
Now, once Thanos gets his hands on an Astral Regulator, he starts to absorb every cosmic entity in all of Marvel Comics, and as he absorbs one to the next, he grows more powerful to the point where he is even able to take out the one above all.
For comparison, it's like winning an argument with your wife, but that sets off an eternal conflict. Fork or spoon?
Now, the Thanos from the future wants nothing more than finality. He wants to die, he wants everything to end just so he can finally be at peace, where the Thanos of the past, now present Thanos, wants to reset everything and just start anew.
But I thought you said Thor was gonna do something.
That's right, Papa North promised you that Thor would change everything, and I think it's an important time to remember that in the MCU, nothing is ever verbatim like the comics. Rather, they cherry pick little pieces here and there and put them all together in one story to make an overlying story arc for the MCU. One, I do not think that the Thanos of this future will just need one Astral Regulator. Rather, just like the Infinity Stones, he will have to go around collecting each individual one. And I think the very last one where we're gonna find, and we already know that these are things that are out of time, that the one above all can't even control, control. And what's one great place to hide an astral regulator that is out of time?
The TVA.
That's right, I think our last and final astral regulator will be hiding in the TVA. What better place if you're trying to hide something out of time than there? And I think, like many decisions before him, Loki's gonna have to decide whether to help Thanos to save his own butt, or for once do something heroic to help the greater MCU. And although his powers do not work at the TVA, I think they will find a way for him to put a delayed spell on the last astral regulator so that when Thanos takes it back to his time, it doesn't work long enough to have Thor come in
And stop them both.
and I think what we will see, instead of Adam Warlock coming in to distract the consciousness of the future Thanos, we will see a god-level Thor come in and take them out both.
Should've went for the head.
But I also think, due to the events of the Infinity Saga, the Multiverse of Madness, Secret Wars, and even Loki, that Thor will look at the convoluted mess that is the MCU and realize he will then have to make the ultimate sacrifice, himself and everything he loves, to reset the MCU. Because as Kevin Feige said, he's the most important character that makes all the things work in the MCU. It's a story of redemption and what it is to be worthy.
Make some good points, but what about the Silver Surfer?
That's right, Papa North promised you he'd clean up the mess with the Silver Surfer as well. So I think if we take a little from Earth X Silver Surfer and What If issue number 5, the Fantastic 5 Silver Surfer, we can find a happy in-between to have a story arc for him. Now in What If issue number 5, the Silver Surfer becomes part of a bigger group, the Fantastic 5, after he is stuck in Hades under the thumb of Mephisto and having to watch his friends torture and burn for eternity.
Mephisto confirmed.
Furthermore, the Silver Surfer convinces Mephisto to come to Earth to face off against all the heroes, where he's later stripped of his powers and burns for eternity. Now in Earth X, Silver Surfer is transversing the universe with his lover, who is also granted the same silver metallic coating over her body so that she can join him, but it is short-lived because she is later killed by the Celestials with a Terrigen bomb.
Perhaps the same Terrigen that gives Miss Marvel her powers?
Once again, we never go verbatim with what the comic books actually say in the greater MCU. So perhaps if we mix a little What If Silver Surfer in with a little bit of Earth X Silver Surfer, we can come together and have something a little less convoluted. So now maybe what we can do is have the Silver Surfer become the Herald of Mephisto in agreement for him to resurrect his wife after getting killed by the Terrigen bomb. And instead of that Terrigen bomb going off in present time, we have it go off thousands of years ago. Now this would give the Silver Surfer both motive and a great way to introduce Mephisto, which we've all been waiting for since the beginning of WandaVision.
And still waiting.
Now if we have this Terrigen bomb go off hundreds or thousands of years ago, perhaps when Silver Surfer first visits Earth, then it gives him both motive to have his wife be brought back by Mephisto and have him be brought into the fold of the MCU. Furthermore, in the Earth X story arc, we have Silver Surfer stay behind to make sure he cleans up the mess left behind from the Terrigen bomb. Now, I believe our version of the Silver Surfer will leave Earth from time to time, which is why we have not seen him in the MCU so far. And will leave behind a protector, so while he's gone, that Earth will always have someone to look over it and protect it. By gifting that person cosmic bands with cosmic powers that, when mixed with the Terrigen, makes them almost unstoppable. And that person will then pass those cosmic bands down from generation to generation until they get to the MCU where we are now. And who has cosmic bands in an upcoming series with powers?
That's right, Miss Marvel. Yeah, well that's good, but where did the cosmic bands come from? Keeper Silver Surfer.
That's right, Keeper Silver Surfer is a version of the Silver Surfer that showed up thousands of years ago. He donned red robes.
Mephisto confirmed!
and sported a pair of cosmic bands.
Mind-blowing!
So if you're stuck in this long, good job, Nerd North. But I think today we have proven with a couple of different iterations of Thor and a few different iterations of the Silver Surfer how we can marry all these stories together like they would in the MCU.
Crazy glue and duct tape!
We have found ourselves a story that satisfies the need for the MCU to be rebooted with some connective tissue with some great Marvel comic series.
And has just enough MCU magic
to make it all work together. And as a writer myself, I know one thing for sure is that all stories have to make sense. And when you're pulling inspirations from a whole lot of other different stories, and remembering that comic book movies are never verbatim of the comic book stories, I think this is the story that satisfies everybody's needs.
And with an MCU that needs to be rebooted sooner than later,
I think this story is going to be one that's coming to a theater near you.
a quick crescendo.
I would love to see nothing more that when Thor resets the whole MCU, we have a scene where the smoke clears and you see him getting up, but it is a new recasted Thor, and possibly on the platform of the Stark Tower, and as they cue the original Avengers music going through the floors of the towers, we see all the acquired IPs that Marvel has managed to get to make the proper MCU we deserved in the first place.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
Here at Nerd North, we're not just excited for a Thor Love and Thunder movie, but excited for the further implication that has on the overarching MCU. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, because the more likes and comments you leave, it gives me more of a chance to make some great nerdy content for subscribers like you. Follow me at Nerd North, true!
And don't forget to hit subscribe, we're almost at 50!
And at 50 subscribers, I'm going to be doing giveaways and live streams. That's just a big old Papa North theory, and if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like and a comment below. If you didn't, tell me how you would reboot the MCU. And until next time, Nerd North!